Welcome to Through the Bible with Pastor Michael, a podcast from First Baptist Church in Mustang, Oklahoma. Here's Pastor Michael.
All right, today continuing our study through First Chronicles, looking at chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we have another challenging day, another day with primarily just a listing of genealogies, the lineages of the different tribes. As we looked at yesterday, it's just it's a long series of names. A lot of this is history. It was history for the people, so they would know after the turn of exile who their ancestors were, to remind them of their families and also the stories of God's faithfulness. And so, while admittedly these are pretty challenging chapters for us to read, because it just literally is name after name after name. Every once in a while, a short word or phrase of explanation. And then primarily, again, just goes right back to the descendants of each of these tribes. But I think there are some things for us to learn and then take away. And so we'll make our observations through the 4 chapters, just kind of help us to see the flow of the chapters we're reading today. And then in addition to that, we will be able to make a few applications as we think about how we can learn from the names of the past and what it means for our families as well. And so let's take a look together here. Observation number 1, we see the descendants of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, all of whom lived east of the Jordan River. And so this is taking us back to what we've read earlier, many weeks ago, but hopefully refreshing your mind a little bit on that. Reuben and Gad, the half-tribe of Manasseh, asked for the land on the east side of the river, and so they lived there separate from the other tribes. And so we see the descendants that are mentioned there. Second, Reuben was the firstborn son of Jacob, but lost his birthright because of sin. We've seen that before in our reading, and just a reminder of the damage that sin brings. Number 3, we see the descendants of Levi, who were to lead the service of the tabernacle, including Aaron, Moses, Miriam, and Samuel. So we see their names listed in the reading today. Familiar names to us that remind us of what they did and how they were used for the people of God. A 4th observation, we see the descendants of Issachar, Benjamin, Naphtali, Manasseh, Ephraim, and Asher. So it's just going through tribe by tribe. The people have come back from exile, and it's helping them to be reminded of what tribe they're in, who their ancestors were, to be able to keep track of those things upon the return. Then a 5th observation is we see the descendants of Benjamin, emphasizing Saul, the first king of Israel. So that's the names and the lineage that's taken through in chapter 8. So the question becomes for us, what does that mean for us? How do we apply these things? Are there some things that we can learn, some things that we can understand that would be meaningful for our life? And let's say number 1, that we should be thankful for our ancestors and our family. Let's not miss this observation here. That we, just like in 1 Chronicles 5, 6, 7, and 8, we have ancestors. We're a part of a family. We're a part of a lineage. And we ought to be thankful for our ancestors. We ought to be thankful for our family. We ought to be thankful for people who are a part of our lives. There are people in our family that we may be just alike, maybe people that we are very different from them, maybe people that we are very close to, maybe others that we don't see very often or talk to very often. But we can still be thankful for the people who have helped make us who we are. Thankful for the people who have provided for us. Thankful for the people who have come before us. Now, think of this every time I do a wedding. I'll always have the bride and groom take just a minute to just look around at those who have gathered there for the ceremony to remind themselves that they're not there on their own. They are who they are as a result of people in their family, their parents, their grandparents, friends and siblings and aunts and uncles who have helped them and loved them and supported them and prayed for them. All of us are the beneficiaries of those who are in our family. Although understood, there are some in our families who may try to harm people. There are some in families or ancestors who did terrible things. But the general principle and application for us remains that it's a worthwhile thing for us to take time to be thankful for our families today and those who have come before us. Now, a second application closely related to that is that we should learn from our ancestors and not repeat their mistakes. I think this is really important. This is something that that we struggle with, even as a nation. We struggle with this. All of our ancestors are imperfect. All of our ancestors are sinners. People that come after us, when they look back at our lives and get to know who we are, they'll discover that we too are sinners, that we too are very imperfect. And it's not that somebody's life has to be completely perfect for us to learn from them, or that they have to be completely flawless for us to be thankful for them. While we're thankful for those who come before us, we also want to learn from them, though, and not repeat their mistakes. There are people that were very influential in the founding of our nation, and they did many great things that we should be very thankful for, but doesn't mean everything about their life was exemplary. Doesn't mean that everything about their life are things that we want to repeat. And so we want to learn from our ancestors and our own family. That's true for churches. There are people who were in leadership in churches long before the leaders of this present day. And we can be thankful for them, but we also can learn from them. We can honor what they did that was good and right, while also learning from their mistakes and errors and striving to not repeat it. And so one of the things we're learning, I think, here in First Chronicles is the importance of history. We need to know our history, and we know that because God spent so much of the Bible giving us history, giving us names and genealogies and lineages and stories. And so we need to know our history. I think we see that very clearly. And as we study history, let's be thankful for those who have gone before us while learning from them to not repeat the same mistakes that they made. A third application is we need to remember that many people overlooked by the world still accomplished great things for God. I thought of that today when I was reading through these names of how many of these people may have been completely unknown by the world, unknown to most believers even today, and yet still able to accomplish great things for God. That's true in our world as well. My wife and I had the chance to visit Oxford, and while we were in Oxford, we were doing walking ourselves through a church history tour. So many significant names and people who went through Oxford, very important in church history. And we went and visited Pembroke College, where George Whitefield attended. George Whitefield, who was used by God in an amazing way to bring about the awakenings. And we were there, and a lady was coming out of the college, a worker there, and I said something to her about George Whitefield, and she said something like, is he a current student? And I said, no, this would have been a long time ago, and just very, very briefly shared a word about who he was, and she had no idea. Here's somebody who was greatly used by the Lord, and in the historic college where he attended, people today don't even know who he is, don't even know his name. So many people overlooked by the world that accomplished great things for God. And so what that tells us is that we don't know how God wants to use us or anybody else. We don't want to try to have some kind of a scoreboard that says this person's more important, or this person's life was significant, or this person was unknown, so their life is insignificant. We just want to be faithful where we are. Let history record whatever it does. Let people know us, forget us, whatever. It doesn't matter that much at all. The Lord knows his people. The Lord rewards the faithfulness of his people. We have eternal rewards kept and preserved for us by the Lord. And the truth of the matter is, eternity will measure the impact of our life, but history may not. History often does not know and does not accurately measure the impact of somebody's life, but eternity will measure that. Fourth, live in a way that your descendants will be blessed. Live in a way that your descendants will be blessed, that when people think of you, learn from you, hear stories about you, that would be a blessing to your family. And even if, for some people, family backgrounds are rough, and there's stories of all kinds of sin and things that you're not proud of, but you can be a fresh start for your family. You can start something new in your family, stories and legacies of faithfulness and of loving your spouse, of being devoted to your children, of being a godly influence on your grandchildren. You want to live in such a way that your children and your children's children, not that they admire you in the sense of a hero, we want to point them away from ourselves unto God, but we do want them to look at us as a picture of faithfulness and fidelity to the things of God. And one of the things that's striking in our reading in First Chronicles is, as these names are remembered in history way back when by the people who would have read them, in a similar way, at some point, your children, your grandchildren, are gonna pass away and have an obituary, and it may list that you preceded them in death. It may list their relationship they had with you. And when your name is heard and when your name is remembered by family down the road, let it be said that when your name is brought up, that people think of Christ, not for the sake of glorying in yourself, but for the sake of bringing glory to Christ. Now, I think of that every time I go to a high school or college graduation, and these names are read very, very quickly, and you just really have 1 or 2 seconds to think of what you know about that person. Let it be said, when people think of you, when your name comes up, let them have a reason to connect the memory of your life and your name with the glory of the Lord Jesus Christ. And then finally, fifthly, for an application, as for your house, serve the Lord. As for your house, serve the Lord. No matter what your life is like, no matter what your lineage has been like, no matter what your background has been like, let it be said that as for you, that you serve the Lord. Maybe your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents were Christians and they lived honorable lives. Wonderful. But you've got to see to it that you do the same. Maybe those who came before you were not known for righteousness, were not known to be people of integrity. Well, you can start something new. As for you, as for your house, serve the Lord. And maybe more personal, maybe the last 5 years or 10 years or 20 years of your life is not how you want to be remembered. Maybe you're not living today the way that you would most want to be remembered by. Well, as for your house today, choose you this day, Joshua 24, who you will serve. Choose this day who you will serve. So as for you and your house, this day forward, choose to serve the Lord and live in a way that if people know you, that their thought of you and their memory of you would help them know that you live for the glory of Christ. All right? And then finally, real quick in closing, from Ecclesiastes 10, Our summary from our wisdom reading: wisdom often is silent. The text says that a fool multiplies words. Sometimes true wisdom is just being able to be silent, not having to be heard. That doesn't mean you never speak, doesn't mean you never give words of wisdom or counsel. Of course we do. But it's just the idea in Ecclesiastes here, similar to James 1, let each man be slow to speak, quick to listen. Wisdom is being fast to listen, slow to speak. Foolishness in Ecclesiastes is one who has to have many words and does not take time to listen. So take time to listen. Be willing to be slow to speak, slow to become angry, as James 1 says, while you live your life today in a way that would help people know that you love the Lord and that you live for His name.